There's a question that no government on earth wants you to ask. Not because the answer is complicated, but because the answer is embarrassing. The question is simple. If you are free, why do you need permission to build on land you already paid for? Why do you need a license to catch a fish from a river that existed long before any flag was planted beside it? Why does a portion of every single dollar you earn get taken before it even touches your hand? And here is the part that should keep you up at night. You agreed to all of it, not with a signature, not with a handshake. You agreed by never questioning it. By the time this story is over, you will understand something that most people spend their entire lives ignoring. Sovereignty, real sovereignty, the kind that means you actually own your life, does not begin with a revolution. It does not begin with a protest sign or a political campaign. It begins at the exact point where the system's influence over your mind, your money, and your daily choices comes to a full and complete stop. Let me paint you a picture. It is a Monday morning, somewhere in any city in the Western world. The alarm goes off at 6:15. A man rolls out of bed. He did not sleep well. He never sleeps well. There is a tightness in his chest that has been there so long he has forgotten what it feels like to breathe without it. He showers. He puts on clothes that a company dress code selected for him. He eats something fast, something processed, something designed in a laboratory to be convenient, not nourishing. He gets in a car he is still making payments on, drives to a building he does not own, and spends the next 8 to 10 hours making someone else's dream come true. In exchange, he receives a number deposited into a bank account. But before that number arrives, a large piece of it has already been removed. Taxes, federal, state, Social Security, Medicare. He never held that money. He never saw it. It was skimmed off the top like cream from milk, and he has been trained since birth to consider this normal. After work, he drives home. He is tired. He does not have the energy to cook, so he orders food through an app that takes a fee. He sits on a couch purchased with a credit card that charges 18% interest. He watches a screen that tells him what to want, what to fear, and who to blame. And then, at some point around 11 at night, he falls asleep, and the whole cycle resets. This man will tell you, if you ask him, that he is free. He lives in a free country. He voted in the last election. He has rights. But here is the dark truth. This man is not free. He is managed. He is a domesticated animal with a social security number, a credit score, and the illusion of choice. And the most brilliant part of the entire arrangement is that he will defend his cage. He will argue with you. He will call you a conspiracy theorist, because the system did not just capture his body, it captured his mind. Now, before you think this is just another rant about the government, let me stop you right there. This goes so much deeper than politics. This is not about left versus right. That is a puppet show, two hands on the same body. This is about a design. A blueprint that was drawn up decades ago, perfected over generations, and installed so deeply into the infrastructure of modern life that most people cannot see it, even when you point directly at it. The design is simple. Create a population that is dependent on a currency they do not control, dependent on a food supply they did not grow, dependent on an information stream they did not choose, and most importantly, dependent on an identity that was given to them, not one they built for themselves. Sovereignty, in this context, is not a political word. It is a personal one. It means that no external force, no institution, no corporation, no algorithm, has the final say over how you live your day. And the reason this concept is so dangerous to the existing power structure is because a sovereign individual does not need the system, and a system that is not needed loses its power. Let us go back, way back, to understand where the trap was built. You have to understand who built it and why. The story starts in the early 1930s, during the Great Depression. The American economy had collapsed. Banks had failed by the thousands. Families who had saved their entire lives woke up one morning to find that their money, their actual savings, had simply vanished. Men who had been wealthy on a Friday were standing in bread lines by Tuesday. Now here is what most history books will tell you. They will tell you that President Franklin Roosevelt stepped in, created the New Deal, and saved the country. That is the clean version, the version that fits on the classroom wall. But let me tell you what actually happened in the shadows. In 1933, Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. That order made it illegal for American citizens to own gold. Let that sink in. The government made it a crime to hold real money. If you had gold coins, gold bars, gold certificates, you were ordered to turn them in to the Federal Reserve, not to the government. To the Federal Reserve, a private institution that most people, to this day, incorrectly believe is a branch of the United States government. It is not. The Federal Reserve is a consortium of private banks. It has shareholders. It operates for profit, and in 1933, the people of the United States were ordered to hand over their hard, tangible wealth to this private institution in exchange for paper notes. Notes that could be printed at will in any quantity at any time. This was not a rescue. This was a heist. The largest, most sophisticated transfer of real wealth from a population to a private institution in human history. And it was done in broad daylight, wrapped in the language of patriotism and economic recovery. But Roosevelt was not done. The New Deal, for all of its celebrated programs, did something far more significant than build bridges and dams. It created dependency. For the first time in American history, millions of citizens were directly dependent on the federal government for their income, their housing, and their food. Now, was there genuine suffering? Absolutely. Were people starving? Yes. But the solution that was offered, and this is the key, the solution was not to return power to the individual. The solution was to make the individual permanently reliant on the state. Social Security, signed into law in 1935, is the perfect example. On its surface, it sounds reasonable. You pay in during your working years, and when you are old, the government pays you back. A safety net. But look deeper. That money you pay in, it does not sit in an account with your name on it. There is no vault. There is no savings. The money you put in today is spent today, on current retirees, on current government obligations. It is a transfer system, not a savings system. And the moment you accept that your future security is in the hands of this system, you have surrendered a piece of your sovereignty. You have made a deal. You have said, I will trust you to take care of me later if I give you a piece of myself now. And that deal, that quiet agreement made under the guise of safety, is the foundation of the modern trap. Fast forward 2 decades to the 1950s. The war is over. America has won. The factories that build bombs are now building refrigerators and automobiles. And a new kind of warfare begins, not with guns, but with desire. This is the birth of the consumer economy, and it is one of the most psychologically sophisticated operations ever conducted on a civilian population. Here is how it worked. During the war, Americans had been asked to sacrifice, to ration, to save, to do without, and they did. They grew gardens. They mended clothes. They were, by necessity, self-sufficient. But self-sufficient people do not spend money, and the new economic machine needed people to spend. So a massive effort was launched, through advertising, through media, through the deliberate engineering of culture, to transform the American citizen from a producer into a consumer. A man named Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, was one of the architects of this transformation. Bernays understood something that most people still do not. He understood that you do not sell a product by explaining what it does. You sell it by attaching it to a feeling, to an identity. You do not sell a car. You sell freedom. You do not sell a cigarette. You sell rebellion. You do not sell a house in the suburbs. You sell the American dream. And that dream, that carefully manufactured vision of success, white picket fence, 2-car garage, a family that looks like a magazine cover, that dream was not organic. It was designed. Designed to create a population that measured its worth by what it owned. And a population that measures its worth by what it owns will never stop buying. They cannot, because their identity depends on it. Every purchase becomes a vote for who they think they are, and every missed purchase becomes a source of shame. The system turned want into need, and need into identity. And once your identity is hooked to the machine, you are no longer free. You are fuel. Now, let me take you inside the mechanics. Because the trap is not just psychological. It is structural. It is built into the very architecture of modern finance. Take the credit system. Not credit cards specifically, though those are part of it. The entire system of credit that governs modern life. You are born. Within months, you are assigned a social security number. That number is your entry ticket into the system. As you grow, you are taught that you need something called a credit score. This number, this 3-digit number, determines whether you can buy a home, lease an apartment, get a car, sometimes even get a job. Think about that. A number that you did not ask for, generated by an algorithm you did not write, maintained by corporations you have no control over, determines the fundamental conditions of your life. And how do you improve this number? By borrowing money and paying it back. In other words, the system rewards you for being in debt. It rewards dependency. If you have never borrowed, if you have never owed, your score is low. The system literally punishes self-sufficiency. A person who saves, who pays cash, who refuses to borrow is considered a risk. Not because they are financially irresponsible, but because they are uncontrollable. The credit system is not a measure of your trustworthiness. It is a measure of your obedience. And it gets deeper. The money itself is a leash. Every dollar in circulation, every single one, was created as debt. When the Federal Reserve issues currency, it is not printing wealth. It is printing debt. Every dollar that enters the economy is lent into existence, with interest attached. This means there is always more debt in the system than there is money to repay it. Always. It is mathematically impossible for everyone to pay off their debts. Someone has to lose. Someone has to go bankrupt. Someone has to fail. This is not a flaw. This is the design. The system requires losers. It requires a permanent underclass of people who who are struggling, who are behind, who are desperate enough to accept whatever terms are offered. Because desperate people do not negotiate. Desperate people do not question. Desperate people work. They work overtime. They work weekends. They take the jobs that are offered at the wages that are given. And they are grateful because the alternative is the street. And above them, a class of people who understand how the money actually works, who own the assets, who hold the equity, who lend instead of borrow, sit comfortably, and watch the machine turn. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is an accounting equation. It is on the balance sheet of every central bank in the world. But it is never taught in school. You learn algebra. You learn the year Columbus sailed. You do not learn how money is created. And that silence, that absence in the curriculum, tells you everything you need to know about who designed the curriculum and what it was designed to produce. Now here is where the information age made it even worse. In the old system, the leash was financial. You were controlled through money, through debt, through economic dependency. But in the 21st century, a new leash was added: attention. Your attention is now a commodity. It is bought and sold on open markets. Every app on your phone, every social media platform, every streaming service is designed by teams of engineers and psychologists to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. Not because they care about entertaining you, because your attention is sold to advertisers, who then use it to sell you things, which puts you into more debt, which makes you more dependent. It is a feedback loop, a closed circuit, and the fuel that keeps it running is you, your time, your focus, your mental energy. Every hour you spend scrolling through a feed of outrage, celebrity gossip, and manufactured controversy is an hour you did not spend building something of your own. Every evening you spend binge-watching a series is an evening you did not spend learning a skill, starting a business, growing food, or simply sitting in silence and asking yourself the most dangerous question in the modern world. What do I actually want? Not what the algorithm suggests, not what the ad promised, not what your coworkers have. What do you, in the quiet of your own mind, actually want for your life? The system cannot afford for you to answer that question, because the moment you answer it honestly, you start pulling threads, and when you pull enough threads, the whole fabric comes apart. So, what does true sovereignty actually look like? It is not what Hollywood sells you. It is not a cabin in the woods with a shotgun and a flag. That is just another fantasy, another product, another image designed to make you feel something without actually changing anything. True sovereignty is quieter than that, and it is harder. It starts with the most basic recognition that almost everything you believe about what you need has been installed in you by forces that profit from your belief. You think you need a new car every few years. You do not. You think you need a house that impresses your neighbors. You do not. You think you need a career with a title that sounds important at dinner parties. You do not. What you need, what you actually need, is so much simpler and so much more threatening to the existing order that it is practically a revolutionary act. You need control over your time. You need the ability to feed yourself without a supply chain that stretches 10,000 miles. You need knowledge that no one can repossess, skills that no algorithm can devalue, relationships that are not mediated by a screen. And you need, more than anything, the ability to sit still, in silence, without reaching for a device, without needing to be stimulated, and be at peace with your own mind. That is sovereignty, and it terrifies the system because it costs nothing. Let me tell you about something that happens when people start down this path. It is predictable, almost like clockwork. The people around them push back, not strangers, not enemies, family, friends, co-workers. The people closest to them become the system's immune response. If you start growing your own food, someone will call it a hobby, a phase, something cute. If you cancel your subscriptions, pay off your debts, and start saving aggressively, someone will tell you that you are being extreme. If you step away from social media, people will say you are isolating yourself. If you question the value of a traditional career path, they will tell you that you are throwing your life away. And they will mean it. They will be genuinely worried about you, because your decision to step outside the pattern is a mirror. It reflects back to them the fact that they have not. And that reflection is unbearable. It is easier to call you crazy than to ask whether they might be asleep. This is the hardest part of sovereignty. It is not the financial restructuring. It is not the lifestyle change. It is the loneliness, the quiet, persistent loneliness of seeing something that the people you love cannot see or will not see, and the temptation, the enormous temptation to go back, to get back in line, to resubscribe, to take out the loan, to put the suit back on and pretend that the splinter in your mind was just a bad dream. Most people go back, and the system counts on that. It counts on the social pressure being stronger than the individual will. It counts on your need for belonging outweighing your need for truth. And for most people, it is right. But there are some who do not go back, and they are the ones worth watching. They are not usually loud. They are not on stages. They do not have followers or brands. They are the woman who bought 2 acres outside a small town and learned to grow enough food to feed her family year-round. They are the man who paid off every debt he had, quit a 6-figure job, and started a small repair shop that earns him 1/3 of what he used to make, but gives him every evening free. They are the couple who pulled their children out of traditional school and taught them how to build things with their hands, how to read critically, how to ask questions that do not have easy answers. These people do not call themselves sovereign. They do not use the word. They do not need to. They simply live in a way that requires almost nothing from the machine. And the machine, for all of its sophistication, has no answer for someone who does not want what it is selling. The ancient Stoics had a phrase. They called it the inner citadel. The idea was simple. You cannot control the emperor. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control whether the army shows up at your door. But you can control the fortress of your own mind. You can decide what disturbs you and what does not. You can decide what you value and what you ignore. And that decision, that daily, unglamorous decision to own your own thoughts, was considered the highest form of freedom. 2,000 years later, the emperor has been replaced by an algorithm. The army has been replaced by a notification. The threats to your inner citadel are not swords and spears. They are pings and pop-ups and 24-hour news cycles designed to keep you in a perpetual state of low-grade panic. But the principle is the same. The fortress holds, or it does not, and the choice is yours. Here is the final truth, and it is one that no institution will ever teach you. You were not born into debt. Debt was placed on you. You were not born needing permission. Permission was required of you. You were not born dependent. Dependency was trained into you through 12 years of sitting in rows, asking to use the bathroom, being told what to think and when to think it, and being tested on your ability to repeat what you were told. The entire system, from the classroom to the cubicle to the retirement home, is a pipeline, and it moves in one direction. It moves you from a state of natural independence, which every child is born with, the curiosity, the defiance, the raw, unfiltered desire to explore and create, and it moves you toward a state of managed dependence. And it does it so gradually, so gently, with so many rewards along the way. A gold star here, a promotion there, a mortgage approval, a retirement package, that by the time you realize what has happened, you are 55 years old, sitting in a doctor's office, being told that your blood pressure is too high, your stress levels are dangerous, and you need to make some changes. And you realize, in that fluorescent-lit room, that you spend your whole life building someone else's kingdom. And the only thing that is truly yours, your time, is running out. Sovereignty begins the moment you stop asking for permission. Not permission from the government, not permission from your boss. Permission from the voice inside your own head that says, "But this is how it is done. This is how everyone does it. Who am I to do it differently?" That voice is not yours. It was installed. And it can be uninstalled, but it takes work. It takes the willingness to be uncomfortable, to be misunderstood, to be, for a period of time, completely alone with the terrifying freedom of your own potential. The system's greatest trick was not enslaving you. It was convincing you that the cage was the entire world, that there was nothing beyond the walls. But there always has been, and the door, if you look closely enough, was never locked. It was just heavy, and no one around you was pushing.